6:42 hours, South China Sea, 180 nautical miles west of Luzon. The horizon was quiet, pale sunlight piercing through a haze that had hung over the South China Sea for days. But at 25,000 feet, two distinct radar blips appeared on a U.S. Air Force AWACS screen, moving fast and closing distance. At that moment, a B-52H Stratofortress, callsign Titan 91, was conducting a routine Freedom of Navigation patrol under Pacific Command orders. Its route was standard: skirt the edge of Chinese-claimed airspace near the Paracel Islands, collect atmospheric data, and return to Guam. But this morning, it wasn't alone. China's most advanced stealth interceptors, two Chengdu J-20 Mighty Dragons, had already taken off from Lingshui Air Base on Hainan Island. Their mission: shadow and deter the American bomber. 0646 hours, AWACS Command Channel. Inside the orbiting E-3G Sentry, callsign Guardian 06, radar operators tracked the faint digital signature of the J-20s, ghost-like echoes flickering in and out. Despite its massive radar array, the AWACS could barely hold a lock for more than a few seconds. Guardian control to Titan 91. Possible shadow, bearing 290 at 80 miles, the controller transmitted.
Copy that,
replied the B-52 pilot, Major Daniel Harlow,
calm but alert.
He'd seen encounters before, but this one felt different. The J-20s weren't broadcasting transponders. They weren't responding to international hails. They were hunting in silence. 0652 hours, 32,000 feet near Scarborough Shoal. The B-52's onboard sensors detected a faint radar spike, one that didn't belong to any commercial or allied aircraft. Its RWR, radar warning receiver, registered intermittent pings between 9.1 and 9.4 gigahertz. To the crew, that meant one thing: a stealth fighter was painting them, and it wasn't friendly. Contact confirmed, low observable, said the electronic warfare officer. Major Harlow adjusted course 5 degrees south, keeping international airspace, but the signatures followed, perfectly aligned, just outside visual range. According to defense analysts later cited by Warfare Chronicles, this was the first time a pair of Chinese J-20s had actively tracked a US B-52H in open skies without prior identification. 6:58 hours. Inside Lingshui Air Base, Hainan, Chinese Air Command had been monitoring the bomber's trajectory since takeoff. For Beijing, the mission was clear: send a message that the South China Sea was no longer unchallenged. The J-20S, piloted by Captain Zhao Lei and Lieutenant Shen Wei, were instructed not to engage, only to escort aggressively. But that order would soon blur. The J-20's onboard Type 147-5 AESA radar locked momentarily onto the B-52, feeding data into China's Skynet defense network. Across ground command centers, digital maps flashed red. The American bomber was inside the surveillance grid. Target classified, heavy bomber. Maintain distance. No provocation, said the controller. But inside the cockpit of Dragon 07, Zhao Lei's curiosity was stronger than his restraint. 7:02 hours, the approach. The J-20s descended from 35,000 feet to 28,000, silent, almost invisible to conventional radar. Their angular fuselages absorbed electromagnetic waves, leaving little more than faint ripples on radar scopes. Inside Titan 91, the B-52's crew switched to passive scan, eyes glued to infrared sensors. Heat bloom detected. Bearing 295, closing fast, said the weapons officer. Seconds later, through the starboard window, a shadow flickered. Sleek, sharp, and silent. For the first time, the Americans saw the J-20. Visual contact, low right, distance approximately 800 meters. Harlow reported. The Chinese fighter glided parallel to the bomber, its nose slightly pitched upward. No radio communication, no warning, just presence. 7:06 hours, the standoff. For the next 90 seconds, both aircraft flew in formation. The B-52 lumbering, the J-20 elegant and menacing. Its twin WS-15 engines glowed faintly against the haze, while its pilot tilted the jet's wings, a silent signal often interpreted as turn away. But Titan 91 didn't move. Instead, its crew began recording every second of radar and thermal data. Each flicker from the J-20's radar array, each thrust change from its engines, every emission frequency logged and transmitted live to Pacific Command, PACOM. In effect, the B-52 wasn't just a bomber, it was a flying sensor array, baiting China's stealth fighter into revealing its secrets. 7:09 hours, the lock. Then it happened. A continuous radar tone pierced through the B-52's RWR system, the unmistakable sound of a fire control lock. The Chinese J-20 had just targeted the American bomber. Inside Titan 91, alarms blared. Spike detected. Fire control active. Band 9.3, shouted the EWO. The crew held their course. They knew the J-20's missile systems were likely PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles, capable of striking targets beyond 200 kilometers. Guardian Control, we are being locked by unknown contact, Harlow transmitted calmly. Copy, Titan. Maintain course. Do not engage. Additional assets are inbound. Those assets were already airborne. 2 US F-35A Lightning IIs from Anderson Air Base, Guam, 420 miles away. ETA, 14 minutes, 7:12 hours. Inside Dragon 07 J-20 cockpit, Jowley stared at the massive silhouette of the B-52 ahead. He toggled radar lock again, not to fire, but to test the range. The PL-15's seeker head calibrated. His co-pilot's voice broke the silence. Command says disengage, Captain. Zhao hesitated. This bomber shouldn't be here. Orders are clear. For a moment, both pilots said nothing. The J-20's onboard computer recorded every detail of the B-52's radar cross-section, data invaluable for Chinese engineers refining stealth algorithms. They, too, were collecting intelligence. 7:15 hours above the clouds. The American B-52 held its path, unwavering. The J-20s, now flanking both sides, flew so close their wingtips shimmered in the bomber's contrails. For observers below, it was invisible, but for the pilots, it was the quietest confrontation of their careers. Then, the unexpected. The B-52's tailgun radar, though long deactivated in modern models, suddenly emitted a low-frequency pulse. It wasn't an act of aggression, it was a message. To any aircraft locking on, we see you too. For a split second, both Chinese fighters broke formation, startled by the unexpected electromagnetic reflection, and at that exact moment, new blips appeared on their radar scopes. Approaching fast, 7:19 hours, Pacific Command Channel, Titan 91. This is Falcon Flight. We have your visual. Hold course northbound. We're taking over escort. Major Harlow looked out his window. Two faint silhouettes cut through the mist. American stealth fighters, silent and poised. The B-52 was no longer alone. The electronic chessboard above the South China Sea was set. 4 fifth-generation aircraft sharing one invisible battlefield. The next few minutes would determine who controlled the air and the narrative. 7:20 hours above the South China Sea. The standoff had shifted. Two Chinese J-20 Mighty Dragons now faced 2 US F-35 Lightning IIs, all within a 50-mile radius. Invisible to civilian radar, visible only to each other. Below them stretched the disputed waters of the South China Sea, quiet, vast, and claimed by many but owned by none. The world had no idea 4 of its most advanced war machines were circling above, seconds away from rewriting the rules of engagement. 7:22 hours, F-35 tactical feed. Inside the lead, F-35, call sign, Falcon 1. Captain Reese Mitchell switched to passive tracking mode. The helmet-mounted display projected faint infrared ghosts, 2 J-20 flanking a B-52. Falcon 1 to Titan 91, we have visual. You're safe under our umbrella. Appreciate it, Falcon, replied Major Harlow from the B-52. But the situation was far from safe. The J-20s weren't retreating. They were adjusting altitude, positioning themselves behind the B-52. 7:24 hours, the climb. From the B-52 cockpit, the scene was surreal. 2 Chinese fighters spiraling upward, their exhausts glowing faintly against the morning sun, and 2 American stealth jets sliding beneath them like shadows. For analysts later reviewing AWACS footage, the formation was textbook electronic warfare choreography. 4 aircraft manipulating radar signatures, testing range gates, and feeding real-time data to their respective ground commands. The South China Sea had become a digital battlefield long before a single weapon was fired. 7:26 hours, electronic countermeasure activation. Without warning, the B-52's onboard AN/ALQ-172 jamming suite powered up, flooding a narrow electromagnetic band. Its purpose wasn't to jam, it was to record. Every return pulse from the J-20's radar reflected differently, giving U.S. analysts insight into the stealth fighter's exact radar profile. To Zhao Lei, it felt like interference. To the Americans, it was golden data, signatures worth millions in intelligence value. At Pacific Command in Hawaii, operators monitoring the feed noted a pattern. Confirmed, Type 147, 5 radar cycle, 10.1 GHz, 400 millisecond sweep. The Chinese stealth system had just revealed its electronic fingerprint. 7:27 hours, the warning. Suddenly, a new tone filled the B-52's cockpit, missile seeker proximity. The system had registered a radar lock within a 1-mile range.
Falcon 1, we're spiked again. Same contact. Copy, Titan.
We're on them. Captain Mitchell's F-35 accelerated, closing the gap in seconds. Through the haze, the outline of the J-20 shimmered ahead. Mitchell toggled his targeting pod, crosshair hovering over the Chinese jet's tail. A digital warning. No missiles armed, no trigger pulled. Just a message.
We can see you now.
7:29 hours. The turn back. Inside Dragon 07, Zhao Lei finally received a direct command from Hainan Control.
Disengage immediately.
F-35s confirmed. Do not escalate. For a few seconds, he hesitated, eyes fixed on the massive B-52 still lumbering along its path. Then he throttled back, banking left toward the mainland. The second J-20 followed. Dragons disengaging, Mitchell reported. Copy that, came from AWACS. The tension began to dissolve, slowly. 7:33 hours, the silent exit. From the B-52's cockpit, the Chinese fighters were now 2 fading specks. Major Harlow exhaled for the first time in minutes.
Falcon Flight, thanks for the escort. Heading home.
The F-35s remained in silent guard until the B-52 crossed 200 miles east of the engagement zone. No shots fired, no public record. Just another invisible encounter in a sky that belongs to everyone and no one. 10:45 hours, Pacific Command Intelligence Review. At PACOM's classified facility, analysts reviewed the collected telemetry. Among the data, J-20 radar frequency range 9.1 to 10.4 GHz, thermal signature variations, 14 unique samples, radar lock cycle time 1.2 seconds. The encounter had yielded more intelligence than weeks of satellite surveillance. What began as a routine flight had turned into a live data acquisition mission, the perfect trap. 14 hours, Beijing. At China's Air Force headquarters, reports from Lingshui Base painted a different picture. Officially, U.S. bomber intruded near Chinese airspace, safely escorted out. Unofficially, the radar data showed something concerning. The J-20's stealth signature wasn't as invisible as designed. The encounter had exposed more to the Americans than intended.